Coming up next, a band that took over radio with 6 hits in the late 60s and then just disappeared in the 80s. 3 of those hits are soft rock classics. We still hear them every single day. And they were written and sung by a master of AM Gold. Now, I've wondered for the longest time, whatever happened to them? Whatever happened to this guy? So I actually tracked him down and drove across several states to talk to him. Coming up next, I solve a music mystery as this lost singer-songwriter tells me the story of a 70s classic that half a dozen women around the world have sworn is about them, but we get the truth. Plus another classic that is so smooth, it's like a big stick of butter set to music. But come to find out, it was a famous serial killer's favorite song. Coming up next, we travel to beautiful Colorado to get the stories of these songs. Hey, music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. You know, if you had a variety of TNC Surf Design shirts as a kid, you're going to dig this channel of deep musical nostalgia. I was like Joe Cool with the towel. Make sure to subscribe below right now. Click the white button and click the bell so you can be a part of our community dedicated to the timeless music of the rock and roll era, the stories straight from the legends. So I'm excited to bring you yet another episode from our series Revelations, where featured artists go deep on the greatest songs and the greatest albums, information and stories you won't find anywhere else, methodical interviews with these guys, and today we solve another mystery. We have another music mystery to solve. As I've shared before, my dad raised me on a radio. He brought me up on, rock from the Beatles to Zeppelin to Sabbath and the oldies but goodies like Del Shannon and Dion and the Belmonts, and then singer-songwriters of the 70s like James Taylor and Joni Mitchell. And then there was always the soft rock of the late 70s and early 80s. And one of the bands that stood out in that movement was the Colorado band Firefall. They had 6 hits in a small space of time from 76 to 80, including You Are the Woman. You are the woman that I've always dreamed of. I knew it from Just Remember I Love You. Just remember I love you, and it'll be all right. And Strange Way. That's a strange way to tell me you love me when you're so... Classics that we still hear today. And most of their hits were written and sung by Rick Roberts. So it's been nearly 45 years since their last hit and since the original band fractured. Whatever happened to him? Well, I decided to track Rick down. I drove to Boulder, Colorado, and I sat down with Rick and got the stories behind these songs. Some quick stats for you. Firefall was formed in Boulder in '74. It was founded by Rick Roberts, who was a former member of the Flying Burrito Brothers. And Jock Bartley, who had been Tommy Bolin's replacement in Zeffy. Later, other members from Mark Andes, Larry Burnett, David Muse, and Michael Clark, they would contribute. You Are the Woman was their biggest hit, and Rick would say throughout the years that about half a dozen women around the country have bragged that this song was written about them. But the song was actually written about the girl that Rick Roberts was dreaming of, who happened to be his wife, his future wife. He hadn't met her yet. With its unmistakable flute beginning, played by David Muse, who actually was so good he became a part of the band. Apparently, the light FM classic was written while Rick was binging on cocaine. All right. He presented it to the band, who had a 2-guitar attack at the time, was aiming to be a heavier rock band, and they hated the song. They actually all rolled their eyes when Rick sang it, but they knew it would be a smash. And then there's Just Remember I Love You. I mean, a classic there ever was one, a slice of late 70s AM gold. Takes me back to some of the first songs I ever heard as a kid. My dad had this record, played it all the time. Just remember I love you more than I can say. I actually read in an interview with a profiler that Ted Bundy claimed it was one of his favorite songs. Kind of creepy. But this song will always keep its mellow gold excellence for me. You know, Firefall, or to be more precise, Rick Roberts, is another guy that wrote and sang half a dozen hits over a few years and then just disappeared. So let's see what he's up to now. Here's the interview. I remember some of my first memories were this family room that we had in the first home that we were in, and the hi-fi system that my dad had. And I can still remember, Just Remember I Love You, the first few strums of the song. And every time I'd be playing somewhere, and every time he'd start playing, I would hear that, and I'd run downstairs to the family room because I wanted to feel of that.
When there's so much trouble that you wanna cry.
Well, in '76, the record comes out, self-titled. And of course, the great thing about albums, as I was telling you about listening my parents' hi-fi, and I'd run wherever I was playing in the house and hear that hi-fi, going and that sound. But the other thing that was a close second to that about just the thrill was the record, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and the cover, this was a painting to a young kid like me, right? It was a portrait, piece of art.
Actually, what it was, Jock had a concept. Jock is an artist, and he had a concept for that and for the second album too, which that's another story. But the thing is, they took his concept and assigned it to one of their staff artists and, thanks for the idea, see ya. It's one of those, you've been wonderful, bye.
Yeah.
So that's how the cover, and I agree with you, back in that era, the name of the band and the cover told you something. And I miss albums. I know they're making a comeback, but when they went to CDs, I was going, oh man, this is so sterile. It takes all the.
Oh yeah.
We spent whole.
I mean, even the back pictures, like, who are these guys? It was before the internet. It was before you knew, the story behind everybody, and so it was interesting just to get a feel for. Look at these characters,
Yeah. Well, you know what? What's really funny is the first ad that Atlantic took out for us. It was a full-page billboard ad, and we opened up the magazine one day and said, you should see this, So we opened up and it says, don't call us a supergroup because of Mark's prior accomplishments and Michael's and mine, and Jock's to some extent. And we went, oh no, who came up with this? Because we weren't thinking of ourselves, we weren't a supergroup. Supergroups are stars that came together. We were all guys who had some track record.
Yes.
And like that, we were professionals. That's what it amounts to.
Exactly.
So we jumped on their case big time and told them, you take that off. That's awful. That's embarrassing, and it's really presumptuous, and oh no. So they changed it. They kept the same picture and said, don't call us a new group, just call us Firefall.
Yeah.
It went much more mediocre. This is better. So. The very first week that we hit, they had a billboard, they had the new ads, and they had 50 stations or something listed around the country with their new editions on the FM stations. And we were listed on about 35 stations. We just jumped on there as Fireball, not Firefall. And we called Billboard and we said, there's one problem.
I got a kick out of this when it came out to see the Atlantic.
Oh, I love those covers, yeah.
Because such a rich history with Zeppelin, Aretha Franklin. But, the interesting thing is that this is, I read a long time ago that this is one of the quickest records to get to gold, to go to gold for Atlantic. Foreigner's first album broke all records with Atlantic for their company, which the company would think of Led Zeppelin, Aretha Franklin, Otis Redding, the list goes on and on and on. Those two albums, Foreigner and Us, went gold faster than any other record in their entire history. Yeah, and they saw big things for us. I want to ask you about "You Are the Woman," which of course, one of the biggest reasons why this album, went to gold so fast. You are the woman that I've always dreamed of. I knew it. Number 9 pop, number 6 on the AC charts, crossover song. Flute is such a huge part of this. It's kind of this joust between the flute and the great percussion, dun 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 dun. Right. And of course, your amazing vocal. I had the chorus, and when I got the chorus, I thought, this is a really good commercial vehicle. I admit it freely. I mean, throughout my career, I've tried to write good songs, not something that I thought, hey, this could be a hit. Not so much the things you say to me. It's not the things. If you come up with something and it has that earmark, to say this is really commercial,
I thought, well, okay, so all I have to do is write a verse down. And then I was going, and after about 4 or 5 months, I was sitting in Aspen one night after a show, and I went back and I played the thing. I go, what the heck? And I thought, you are way overthinking this. You know? Calm down. Back off about 3 years. And I just made it simple.
I think the reason why that was such a big hit, women out there that were hearing it wanted to be that woman, right? Right? And a lot of their husbands or boyfriends called and dedicated it.
Yeah.
You know, dedicated. I remember when my dad was telling me kind of the story when the song first came out, you know, and he said, you know, this was one of your mom's favorite songs when this came out. It's not so much your pretty face I see. It's not the clothes. You talked about how you had this chorus and you spent all this time on the verses, but did you know that once you finished it, that you had a hit? I mean, you probably did know.
I thought it had a good shot. There are a few, I've heard back about this, that there are several women are going around the country saying, well, he wrote that for me. And the fact is I did not write it for anyone. Actually, I wrote it for my wife, but I had not met her yet. But she fulfilled the bill. But the thing is,
you're writing it for the future.
Yeah. Paying it forward. You know?
Right.
So the thing is, it was a fantasy letter. I was still dreaming of the woman I always dreamed of. It's more that special way you look at me. Oftentimes, I don't really realize what I've been saying until I listen back. So with You're the Woman, I didn't really think carefully. I've been told by people, oh man, that's like a win-win song. If you want to get out of trouble with your woman, just sing that song to her because there's nothing she could really be offended by. You know,
right.
Really? Yeah. So I don't know, but I have had a lot of people tell me that they proposed to that song or that was their song when they were, you know, first dating or whatever.
Arranging the song, because I mean, coming up with a catchy song, but how did you arrange that song? Was it you knew that the flute was going to be in there, and you knew that, you know, kind of the percussion and all those types of things?
Well, you know what? As far as percussion, Joe Lala was the 7th member, unofficial, of Firefall. He did most all our stuff all the way through. He had played on my 2 solo albums before that, and you know, Joe was the best of percussionists to my knowledge of my era. He really had it down. The thing is, the band, my songs, I'm really proud of my songs and all that stuff, but the band kicked it up a whole other notch. The arrangements of most things took place within the 6 of us, all of us. I had a hand in it, but so did everyone else. And every one of those guys in the band, therefore, created the arrangement together. There were parts that came up, like on Mexico, there's mariachi horns. Da-da-da-da-da. From the very first time I wrote that song, I was hearing those in my head. I was going, Mexico, I hear these horns, yeah. I went to the producer, I said, look, this has got to have it. Really? Okay, yeah. But mostly, the arrangements, they just kind of fell together.
Just Remember I Love You, when you were writing it, did the guitar kind of come first? Because there are very few songs that are that recognizable, where those chords, you hear the first 2 or 3 strums and you're like, oh, that's Just Remember I Love You.
Just remember, all happened in one night. I wrote that song from start to finish in 6 hours.
When it all goes crazy and the thrill is gone.
It was in self-defense. Because I had brought a lady out here from Florida, and I did, and this is another, just, no holds barred, I did the bulk of my writing, I did Wired to the Gills on cocaine. I did a lot of cocaine in the 70s. And that being the case, there were a lot of times when I would sit up 4 nights in a row, go to bed around dawn, get a couple hours sleep, and be back at it, whatever. But not on a normal schedule. So this woman was standing on the stairs to the bedroom. She said, "Are you coming up to bed with me, or you got to sit there with your guitar and your Coke again?" And the way she said it, I cannot really imitate, but I knew I was in the deepest of possible trouble, and that I was going to have something to show for another night of sitting up.
Just remember I love you, and it'll be alright.
So the songs started, came to me, and I just bore down, and by the time she got up in the morning, so she came back down and said, "Listen to this," and I played her the whole song. And she said, "That's pretty good." And I said, "Yeah, I think it is." And I think it was the fear motivation that drove me on that.
Because you better had something ready.
Just remember I love you more than I can say.
I mean, people ask me a lot. They say, which comes first, the lyrics or the melody? And for me, some happen with the lyrics first, some with the melody first, and occasionally they come all together, like that one did.
Maybe then your blues will fade away.
I have been accused over the years many times of I'll play a new song with somebody, they'll say, "What key is it?" "Never mind, I know." because I use the chords A minor and F major seventh a lot. And that song starts on an F major seventh and then just jacks up to the G position and does the same chord again. And it uses the chorus of C, G, F major seventh, and then it goes to the A minor again. I think this is a vague memory, but I believe that just that F to G thing, that da 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 da, da is what came first, and it blossomed pretty quickly. So it's
When it all goes crazy and the thrill is gone, the days get
I'd like to have a real honest to goodness melody to my song. You know,
You
it's like-
do, and that's a really melodic song because of the guitar harmonies, but also the vocal harmonies. Remember, I love it. Da, 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 you know.
just remember.
A lot of times, I mean, I did usually more than one of the vocals on the Firefall things. I would do the lead and do some of the harmonies. Now, the basic harmony in the verses there is Larry Burnett, who is one of the best baritone harmony singers I've ever had the pleasure of working with. He hears those parts underneath. I don't hear the kind of things he hears. I can hear just a piggyback underneath part, you know.
Oh, yeah.
But he finds the intervals that come up and down. Really, really nice stuff.
Need a lover and you're down so low. You start to
How did Timothy B. Schmidt come into that as background vocals?
He was a friend of Jim Mason's, actually. Jim had done some stuff with Poco. And so he knew Timothy from there. And he asked if he'd come down and sing. And Timothy's a great guy.
when the blues come calling at the break of dawn. The rain keeps
But as far as the answer backs and stuff, I think that was a fair amount of it came from what I was hearing with the song when it started to develop, you know. That and a lot of other songs.
Well, there's so many great performances of it. If you go on to YouTube, that's a really covered song. There's a lot of guys, you know, the guys that have their acoustic guitar and are teaching people how to play a song. All of those guys have covered just "Remember I Love You," and and you know, because I think it's just one of those songs that lends itself to the acoustic guitar and is
Barry
really,
Manilow did it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Exactly.
So these are
On
some
his-
songs from the 70s that I didn't write, but I wish I had.
You probably got a kick out of that.
Yeah, I liked it.
remember I love you, and it'll be alright.
Well, you know, just remember I love you is the guitar solo. With the saxophone and with the guitar, it's almost like on that record, you've got saxophone guitar as an instrument together.
I think one of the signature things about Firefall, as we went on down the line, was the interplay between David and Jock, sax and guitar.
It's kind of eerie. There's a little bit of eeriness there, this mystery, this real mystical, you know, part of Just Remember I Love You, even though it's one of the catchiest songs out there. Right. How did you arrange that and put that together?
Well, that was definitely, once again, that was those two guys. They found that for themselves.
Looking back at your life, Rick, and being in the business for 40 plus years, and what would you consider your greatest accomplishment?
For one thing, I'm proud of the fact that I could offer people music that had an impact on them. That because I mean, people oftentimes they have their favorite songs or everything. They say, "Oh yeah, the beat was so great" or whatever. But having songs that people come to me and say those lyrics really meant a lot to me, that had an impact on them that way, I'm proud of that. I'm proud that I managed to learn to walk again, because that was no picnic. And I'm proud of having Mary. Mary was my guardian angel, and she was the most single important element in my recovery. A lot of people had a lot to do with it, but Mary was, right there for me and supportive, and just in many ways. More than learning to walk again, just being able to by example, say, don't give up, because that's the whole story of life as far as I'm concerned. Don't give up. Everybody gets knocked down. You have to keep getting back up.
Thanks so much for watching. Leave us a comment about Firefall, about this classic 70s soft rock group. What do you think about Rick Roberts? What do you think about these songs? I always love tracking these guys down and finding out where they are and what happened, and this was no different. Who would you like to see next? We covered Paul Davis. We covered Rick Roberts now, Firefall. What else would you like to see? Let me know below. Let's have a great discussion. If you like our content, we invite you to subscribe below. We'd love to have you as part of our community. Until next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends.